Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Amari's Revenge. The goddess next door is confronted by a Nubian queen out for revenge at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in this inaugural Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Amari's Revenge in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. A Colorado Asian teenager is facing 60 years in prison after setting fire to the wrong home over his stolen iPhone. Now, in this incident, Kevin Bui, who was 16 years old 4 years ago, led a group of friends to the home of an individual who he had thought had stolen his iPhone after tracking the phone with his Find My iPhone app. And after tracking this phone with the iPhone app, Kevin Bui and these three friends who were dressed in masks and hoodies went to this home of a Senegalese family and threw an accelerant on the home and lit it on fire. And as a result of lighting this home on fire, 5 people in this entire family wound up losing their lives, including 2 babies. Now, after an investigation, the police found out that Kevin Bui and 2 of these other friends participated in this arson and murder, and because there was video camera surveillance to show these individuals going to this home as they tracked it on the iPhone app, this basically led to all 3 of these individuals winding up getting convicted, and Kevin Bui, who was 16 at the time, is now 20 years old and pled guilty and is now on the road to getting a almost 60-year sentence for participating in the murder of this entire Senegalese family with this arson. Now, the Denver police see this as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of the actions that Kevin Bui has been convicted of and basically pled guilty to, it definitely fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And it's clear to me that Kevin Bui is one of these beta males who has a too close emotional attachment to an iPhone, and that overly close emotional attachment to that iPhone made it where this beta male basically wound up throwing away his intangibles, all because he was in his feelings over this iPhone. Now, when it comes to beta males, they oftentimes form emotional attachments with things like iPhones because those attachments allow them to feel a sense of self-worth, and these attachments are like a security blanket to these individuals because they make these people feel emotionally secure about their social status and their ability to form relationships with other people. And with a lot of beta males and even some females, they have a basically symbiotic relationship with these devices, and anybody just taking these devices make it where this individual winds up losing control of themselves, and as they lose control of themselves, what they do is act impulsively on their emotions without ever thinking critically about the consequences of their actions. And that's what Kevin Bui did in this situation. After he thought his iPhone was stolen, what he did was not look to try to mitigate the situation by contacting the police to report his phone stolen. No, instead of looking to let the police find the stolen iPhone, he decided to take the law into his hands. And as he looked to take the law into his hands, he wasn't looking to get justice for the stolen iPhone. No, he was looking to get revenge, and he was looking to make somebody pay for this stolen iPhone, a device that could easily be found by the police or could easily be replaced if you had an extended warranty as related to the service provider you had. But because Kevin Bui wasn't thinking critically and was acting impulsively on his emotions regarding this attachment of an iPhone, what he did was look to plan with malice aforethought to get revenge on the people who he thought stole his iPhone. And as he was looking to track this iPhone on the Find My iPhone app, what he did was look to target the general area, not understanding that this was not something for him to do. No, this was something for law enforcement to do regarding this iPhone if it were stolen, because law enforcement would have been able to get this iPhone and be able to retrieve this item without doing any harm to anyone. But Kevin Boyd wanted to do harm to people because he was emotional, and because he was angry about this person stealing his phone, he acted with malice aforethought. And as he acted with malice aforethought, what he did was look to harm the individuals for taking his iPhone, harm them in a much more severe fashion that he believed would sate his feelings. Now, as he looked to sate his feelings, he really, again, was not thinking critically about the bigger picture as related to the world. No, this iPhone meant more to him than more important things as related to his intangibles, such as his health, his safety, and most importantly, his freedom, and even his dignity and self-respect, because to compromise your own self-worth over a device that basically is going to be forgotten in a less than a year because Apple constantly makes iPhones just shows how this male was so caught up in his feelings that he wasn't thinking about, again, those more important intangibles such as his health, his safety, his freedom, and his dignity and his self-respect. Because those things are worth more than an iPhone that, again, if you have an extended warranty or you have things with the service provider, can easily be replaced. And in many cases, guys will replace that iPhone in less than a year because it's no longer the cool thing. So this male basically, again, threw away more important intangibles like his freedom over this iPhone. And now that he has been caught, and him and his friends, they are all going to jail. I mean, one of his friends is basically in jail right now as related to 40 years in prison. Another one is sentenced to 3 years in a juvenile detention center and 7 years in a state prison. And he will be sentenced to possibly the maximum of 60 years in prison if his friend got these 40 years in prison. And these males basically threw away the rest of their lives over an iPhone that would have been out of date in less than 6 months. And because they threw their freedom away, they are now going to live the rest of their lives missing out on all of Apple's technology and possibly Apple going out of business, as they are now going to spend 40 to 60 years in prison in the penitentiary for 2 of them. And the other one is going to spend 7 years in prison after 3 years in juvenile hall. And they're not going to have access to technology. No, the only thing they're going to have access to is the cell. And they're also going to have to deal with the authority of the COs as they are in those cells. And in those cells, they are going to basically have to deal with communicating with Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles as they're looking to trade them for commissary, because these guys won't be able to afford the commissary in the penitentiary with them being so young. They're going to be basically going from being able to work a job and make money for themselves and make really good money being free, to working for 10 cents an hour in the penitentiary, where they're going to have to deal with bartering with Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles for the commissary because the food is nasty. And as they are traded by Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, they are going to be traded for Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light lemonade, packets of Crystal Light tea, off-brand lemonade, off-brand fruit punch, off-brand grape drink, off-brand orange drink, off-brand peach drink, packets of soy sauce, off-brand Oreo cookies, off-brand vanilla cookies, off-brand lemon cookies, off-brand duplex cookies, off-brand vanilla wafers, off-brand ginger snaps, off-brand sugar wafers, cups of apple juice, packets of ketchup. They'll be traded for meat like tuna and fish and chicken, and off-brand um, chickens and all sorts of stuff. I mean, these guys are going to be getting their front side and their back sides filled up with carbon rods and spit roasted, and then Mr. Sprinkles is going to come in and spray the special sauce all over the front side and the back side after filling them up with the carbon rods, then split the cheeks open and show everybody the backside of all three of these dudes who murdered this family, looking like the inside of a glazed jelly donut. And basically, these guys are basically going to be feeling real bad because they threw their freedom away over an iPhone that basically, again, will be forgotten in less than a year. These guys will be regretting and ruining the day they plan to get this revenge, as justice is meted out on them harshly inside of the penitentiary by Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, again, as they fill up that front side and that back side in a spit roast. And then, after Mr. Sprinkles splits the cheeks open and shows them looking like the inside of a glazed donut, then they're going to be forced to wash the skid marks out of the jockey drawers out of Mr. Sprinkles with a toothbrush inside of that penitentiary. And after they suffer all of these ignominious humiliations, these males will again regret and rue the day that they went out here and planned this quest for revenge over something as trivial as an iPhone. Now, this whole situation basically shows me how sad things are getting as related to the man crisis and how much progressively worse it's getting. It's getting progressively worse because a lot of these males are not raised with proper male life skills or male survival skills to understand how to think critically about dealing with conflicts like something like a situation like a stolen iPhone. And it's really sad that almost 35 years later, I mean, I remember in 1987 when I was a teenager, I almost wound up losing my freedom getting into a fight over a comic book. And it was that lesson that taught me that these items really don't matter in the scheme of things, and that there are more important things for a man to think about, such as his freedom. And sometimes you have to charge an item to the game and let the police do their work if something is stolen. When it comes to items, you cannot get so emotionally attached to them that you want to put your health, safety, and most importantly, your freedom at risk. Sometimes you just got to be able to say, okay, I'll take the L as related to this item because this item has less value than more important things such as your dignity, your self-respect, and your self-worth and your freedom. Because your dignity, again, this is you putting this item is having a higher value than you and saying that you're going to use this as an attachment to get the attention of others. You're putting your self-respect at risk because you're saying that this item has more value than you because you want people to respect you because you have this item. And you put your freedom at risk because you're willing to sacrifice your freedom just to get this attachment back because you believe this is a thing that signifies your self-worth. And this is what you really need to think about. And again, a lot of males, because there's no father or no man to sit down and teach them about the intangibles of their freedom, these males, really, they wind up in these situations because there's no man to teach them that an iPhone doesn't have value. Because yes, these phones, again, they are things that basically, they are something that you have a lot of information on, but this is not more important than your life. No, a cell phone, yes, it has information on it, but that information can easily be put back on another phone. I mean, when it comes to these accounts, they are basically in the clouds and in the servers. All you need to do is punch in a password and all that information goes to another device. This is what I've seen as related to the internet whenever I have Google Chrome on multiple computers. And when it comes to these iPhones or these cell phones like this, the information gets transferred to another phone because it's just basically a computerized device. And this device isn't worth losing your freedom over because, again, what you can do is, again, go to the phone company. They'll cut that phone off and all the information on it will not be accessible because once you put in the password, that is the only way to get the information. And when it comes to the new, more modern iPhones, there's something on them called an activation lock. And the activation lock basically makes it where the phone is completely inoperable once you don't have the passwords or the information that logs you in. I mean, that's what this guy really wasn't thinking about because he was so emotionally attached to this device. And this is a problem I'm seeing with a lot of kids because they get these devices early, they become emotionally attached to them. But there's no reason to get emotionally attached to them because this is not a security blanket. But the reason why these kids do this is because their parents don't meet their emotional needs. And because their parents don't meet their emotional needs, they attach their emotions to this device because this device signifies them being able to connect with people because they never were taught to connect with people in a healthy fashion. And this is what leads to the antisocial and violent behavior that this guy Kevin Bowie participated in with these three friends. I mean, these three males participated in this because they weren't getting their emotional needs met by a father or a mother, and because they didn't have emotional security as related to their own self-worth, what they felt was motivated to participate in murder over a phone that they basically would throw away within less than a year. And that just shows how the man crisis is getting worse because people don't even regard the lives of people. I mean, this is what happens with beta males because they become detached from people because they never had an emotional attachment to people. And what's really scary here is this male and two of his friends murdered an entire family over something as trivial as a phone. And it really shows me how much worse the man crisis is getting because this proves 2 points I've made about the man crisis. One, about the ages of these individuals getting younger, and two, that they're participating in more heinous violence because they don't understand boundaries as related to behavior, and two, they don't understand how to conflict resolve or to problem solve in a way that allows them to get a resolution where things will benefit them. That's what's happening here, and again, it shows the complete collapse and implosion of the American family. This whole situation in Colorado shows the complete collapse of the American family and shows how much worse the man crisis is getting. And sadly, many people won't want to talk about that because it means, one, holding mothers accountable for the way we are raising boys, because over 60 years ago, feminists said we could raise boys to become men, but we see that from the way these boys are raised, what we're raising is 2 to 3 generations of men in crisis. And after the COVID pandemic, they're turning into not only landmines, but landmines with devastating damage, because to murder an entire family over what you thought was the track location of an iPhone just shows that this male was, again, acting impulsively on his emotions without ever saying, hey, I can go to the police, I can let the police go deal with this situation, and they can go out here and deal with this situation. But these guys didn't want to do that because they wanted to sate their feelings. And now that they want to sate their feelings for a moment, they're going to be dealing with a lifetime of pain after Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, and Melvin and Mr. Sprinkles get a hold of them. And that's how these males went from being boys who were growing up to become men who had their freedom to men who are going to be men in crisis for the rest of their lives inside of the penitentiary. Now, if you want to learn why males like this are motivated to participate in this kind of spectrum of extreme violence and what motivates them to be able to want to believe that this violence is the thing to do and what again leads to these males winding up on a dysfunctional life paradigm, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos about the man crisis, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App so I can continue talking about the man crisis and help more people be able to overcome this man crisis, which is basically becoming a major crisis in this country. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Illuminati, the man who rules the world, takes on the head of the global elite in this all-new action-packed John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Illuminati in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.